Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Vyasadanandana Radhadana Ranjana Yamuna Tera Chari Jayurada Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Vyasadev Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Stotra Tasya Samata Javan Guru Sabha Charanaravanda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gaur Pramanande Hari Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4, Appearance of Sri Narada, Text 19. Chaturhotram karma suddham prajanam viksha chavidikam prajanam viksha vaidikam vedadhadyangya santattai Vedamekam chaturvidham Chaturhotram karma suddham Prajanam viksha cha vaidikam Chaturhotram karma suddham Prajanam viksha vaidikam Vyadadhadyangya santatai Vedamekam chaturvidham Recite, some of you can recite.
Chaturhotram karma shuddham Prajanam viksha vedikam Vedadhadyagya santatai Vedamekam chaturvidham
Chaturhotram karma shuddham Prajanam viksha vedikam Yadadhadyagya santatai Vedamekam chaturvidham
चतुर्होत्रं कर्म शूद्रं
चातुर्होत्रं कर्म शुद्धं
प्रजानवीक्षय वैदिकं
प्रजानां वीक्ष्य वैदिकं
व्याधानं यज्ञसंसिद्धै
यज्ञसंसत्यै
वेदमेकं चतुर्विधम्
वेदमेकं चतुर्विधम्
Chatuh,
चतुः
four.
Four.
Hotram,
Hotram,
sacrificial fires.
sacrificial fire.
Karma Suddham,
Karma Shuddham,
purification
purification
of word.
of word.
Prajanam,
Jnanam,
of the people in general.
the people in general.
Diksha,
Diksha,
after seeing.
After seeing
Vedikam,
Vedikam,
according to Vedic rites.
according to Vedic rites.
Vedadhat,
Vedas
made into.
into
Yajna,
Yajna,
sacrifice.
sacrifice.
Santatyai,
Santatyai,
to expand.
expand.
Vedamekam,
Vedamekam,
only one Veda.
only one Veda.
Chaturvidham,
Chaturvidham,
in four divisions.
four divisions.
Translation and purport by His Divine Graces, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
He saw that the sacrifices mentioned in Vedas were means by which people's occupation could be purified. And to simplify the process, he divided one Veda into four in order to expand them. Formerly, there was only one Veda named Yajur, and the four divisions of sacrifice were there specifically mentioned. But to make them more easily performable, the Vedas was divided into four divisions of sacrifices to purify the occupational service of four orders. Above the four Vedas, namely Yajur, Sham, Athar, Rik, Yajur, Sham, Athar, there are Puranas, the Mahabharata, Samhitas, etc., which are known as the fifth Veda. Sri Vyasadeva and his many disciples were all historical personalities. They were very kind and sympathetic towards the fallen souls of the age of Kali. As such, the Puranas, Mahabharata were made from related historical facts which explain the teachings of the four Vedas. There is no point in doubting the authority of the Puranas and Mahabharata as part and parcel of Vedas. In Chandogya Upanishad 7.1.4, the Puranas and Mahabharata, generally known as histories, are mentioned as the fifth Veda. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, that is the way of ascertaining respective values of the revealed scripture. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasyat Desatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasri Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So for 3-4 nights, I'm literally sleepless. And I don't know what I'm reading, and I'm sitting in front of you to speak Bhagavatam. I don't know what I'm going to speak. Four Vedas, Rik, Yajur, Atharv, Sam or Atharv. And these Vedas were studied by Brahmanas. Naturally, those who are intellectual class, they must be engaged in studying Vedas. So there are a lot of things that are being talked about, why others could not read Veda, only Brahmanas. The problem with that statement was that India had created a system. Brahmanas were known by their birth, not by qualification. Yesterday someone asked that in Jagannath Puri, we see all these pandas, their forefathers were pandas and their sons will become panda. whether they have qualification or not. What is your comment? And this question was asked from a person who is from Jagannath Puri. So I answered that is why ISKCON adheres to the modern principle that anybody who has a Brahminical principle, a Brahminical qualification, within ISKCON, he is allowed to worship, to become a pujari. So, but, you create a societal system, because if you have created a proper societal system, most likely a Brahmana's son may become a Brahmana, but not necessary, but most likely, if you create that kind of structure. Just like a professor's son, if given proper encouragement and environment, may likely to become a professor also, because he gets more opportunity in that direction. But that may be true, professor's son becoming professor, but then he has to have qualification. So Vedas obviously can be studied by those who are qualified, not ordinary people. And who can understand Vedas? They would be called Brahmanas. But then in India we have a system. You go to Srirangam, there are many mutts around the temple. We were staying in one of the mutt, and I saw there will be, some families would come, the Brahmin families, these children, every day they practiced reciting Vedas. So this Veda Patha Abhyasa is there, and normally Brahmin children, they do it. Should we castigate them for that? No. If only Brahmin sons are doing Veda Patha, others are not doing, then that is your fault, not Brahmin children's fault. Their parents are encouraging. I was in a gurukula run by Chinnajiyar Swami, Sri Sampradaya. He's in Hyderabad. This is almost like 200 acres of land. It's a huge plot. And what is his name? Our Madhav Gopinath Prabhu took me there. And I saw that all the children were Brahmin children in that gurukula. They've been scouted from different places. And there, no regular curriculum is taught. And we should appreciate that, at least in Brahmin family, people are sending their children to such gurukul. Other family will not send. So there is, because once you follow the path of Brahmanism, you maintain a mode of goodness and you appreciate activity related to mode of goodness. But when the so-called Brahmins, they say, this is my exclusive right, that has to be negated. So both way we have to see. People criticize them because they only study Vedas, but that is not case. My experience is, majority of Brahmins, many places, they encourage their children to do Veda Patha. Others don't do. So that criticism is also not valid. The other criticism is that the so-called Brahmins declaring that we only have right to study Vedas, that is also wrong. So these four Vedas, we will see as we go forward how Vyasadev would appoint different professors for different Vedas. Vaishampayana, there are so many, we will see Paila, Vaishampayana. So like that, many of his disciples will be appointed as a professor. You must know that Vyasadev built this university in Badrinath. In his university name was Samyaprasa Asrama, and this was located near Saraswati River. We are very fortunate to be there, and in that place, it must be a place for austerity. It must be a place of gaining knowledge. Why otherwise Vyasadev will select this place, Badrinath. And so here, Vedas were divided into 4. And what are those Vedas meant for? To purify or connect our occupational duty to Krishna. That means a businessman, how he can purify his business. An administrator, how can he purify his administrative job? The service provider class or labor class, how they can purify their eating, mating, sleeping, defending activities. Everything is there in Vedas. So that is why Brahmins were most sought after. And I have seen in my childhood days, every village used to have Brahman Shasan. Brahman Shasan means only Brahmins lived there. And every family in the village would be connected to one of the Brahmana family in that Shasan. Like for example, when my grandfather expired, so my father invited a specific families. Those were connected to our family. That means they would come do puja in our family and blah blah blah, whatever. So that is how it was organized. In fact, I would very much recommend such a system to be developed. We are very fortunate to get an opportunity to serve in Ranchi now. And we have some plan like that. How to create Kirtan Mandali in every village. How to engage people in activities connected to Krishna. How do we purify varieties of functions that they do in Krishna consciousness. We are going to make a plan and do it. But so this is very essential. This is very essential. How we, because all our actions are born out of nature. Everybody minimally must be a karma yoga, because we are attached to our action, and being attached to the actions, that action must be born out of nature, not born out of societal majority. Majority votes for engineering, so everybody study engineering. Majority votes for medical, everybody study. This is nonsense. This is not Vedic culture. Although engineering, medical, and everything is there in West, in West people don't study based on societal view. I have told many times, the university where I was, there nursing was the number one in demand, and I don't think that in a university, I don't see in university nursing, right, in India. Hardly any. Nursings are different schools in India, right? I don't think that university has nursing. But there in universities has nursing, and people do nursing happily. Majority do that because, that is because most of us are Sudra mentality. In fact, medical also Sudra job, engineering also Sudra job according to Veda. According to Veda, only Brahminical job is he who separates matter from spirit. Okay, so that is Brahminical. Otherwise, everything is less than Brahminical job or intellectual job. Okay, so we should go to the next text. The four divisions of original sources of knowledge, the Vedas were made separately, but the historical facts and authorities, authentic stories mentioned in the Puranas are called the fifth Veda. After the Vedas were divided into four divisions, Paila Rishi became the professor of the Rig Veda. So I was telling Paila. Jaimini, professor of the Samveda, Vaisampayana, alone became glorified for Yajur Veda, and who is remained for Atharva. The Sumantu Muni Angira, who was very devotedly engaged, was entrusted with Atharva Veda, and my father, Roma Harshan, was entrusted with Puranas and historical records, the fifth Veda. So there are 5 professors whom Vyasadeva trained, and we saw Paila Rishi became professor of Rig Veda, Samveda Jaimini, Vaisampayana Yajurveda, and Angira Atharva Veda. And Roma Sutta was given the position to, he was trained in fifth Veda, Puranas and Itihasa like Mahabharata. So, dear devotees, try to understand that reading Vedas doesn't mean reading Sanskrit. Reading Vedas means to penetrate by sheer power of moral goodness into import of Veda. The hidden potency in Vedic hymns. And it is not possible for ordinary people. All these learned scholars in their turn rendered their entrusted Vedas into their many disciples, grand disciples, great grand disciples, that the respective branches of followers of Vedas came into being. So first Vyasa, then here Paila, Jaimini, Vaisampayana, Angira, Romaharshana Sutta, 5 Vedas, right? Rig, Sam, Yajur, Atharv, and 5th Veda, that is Puranas and Itihasas, right? And then they trained many. So Vyasa trained five, and each one of them, they had many, many disciples. And they have grand disciples. Like I have seen, like I was I had a friend in my childhood in a school, Panda, some Panda, Basant Panda. And this Panda is a Yajurvedi. But this Panda cannot do any mathematics, right? And if I have not gone to school, before I joined my class, because I was in Koraput, my father got transferred by a lot of effort to a village near my village. So I started studying in my school in my village. In my village, I only studied one standard, that is 5th standard. That's all. Otherwise, I studied everything in Koraput. So, so during this, Basant Panda, because he was famous in my school as a Yajurvedi. Okay, that means his family is supposed to be expert in Yajurveda. So, and you see that there is Dvivedi, Chaturvedi, that means they're expert in all Vedas and like that. This is, but in So I remember this Panda was very, very popular in my school. And before I came, because he was a Yajurvedi Brahmin. So all teachers liked him. And when I entered, what happened in 5th standard, the most difficult subject anyway in the preliminary level is the mathematics. Because in our time, hardly English is very, very preliminary. I don't think that English was there at all. Maybe it was there. I'm forgetting. But everything is, we were studying Odia medium. And I remember I entered, and then they saw that I'm solving the problems and everybody copied my thing. And once, one particular problem that I have made mistake, and hence everybody has made the same mistake. So the teacher made Basant Panda stand on the chair. Why did you allow your copy to be copied? So Panda was very smart, said, no, this fellow, everybody copied from his note. And this is my first beating in my hand. Right? Then I realized that if you become hero among your friends when you give your notes, everybody copies. You also get the sticks when something goes wrong. So Yajurvedi Basant Panda somehow came to my memory today. It's good that some occasion should come for humor. So grand disciples. Okay. Krishna says among Vedas he is Samveda. And because Samveda has hymns that glorifies Krishna. Thus the great says Vyasadev, who is very kind to ignorant masses, edited the Vedas so they might be assimilated by less intellectual men. Someone should read the purport by the time I come back, because I have made the offering and I have to take the offering out. Hare Krishna.
The Veda purpose.
The Veda is one, and the reasons for its division to many parts are explained herewith. The seed of all knowledge, or the Veda, is not a subject matter which can easily be understood by any ordinary man. There is a stricture that no one should try to learn the Vedas who is not a qualified Brahmana. This scripture has been commonly interpreted in so many ways. A class of men who claim Brahminical qualification simply by their birthright in the family of a Brahmana claim that the study of the Vedas is a monopoly of the Brahmana caste only. Another section of the people take this as an injustice to members of other castes who do not happen to take birth in a Brahmana family. But both of them are misguided. The Vedas are subjects which had to be explained even to Brahmaji by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the subject matter is understood by persons with exceptional qualities of goodness. Persons who are in modes of passion and ignorance are unable to understand the subject matter of the Vedas. The ultimate goal of Vedic knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. This personality is very rarely understood by those who are in modes of passion and ignorance. In the Satyuga, everyone was situated in the mode of goodness. Gradually, the mode of goodness declined during the Treta and Dwapara Yugas, and the general mass of people became corrupt. In the present age, the mode of goodness is almost nil. And so, for the general mass of people, the kind-hearted, powerful sage Srila Vyasadeva divided the Vedas in various ways so that they may be practically followed by less intelligent persons in the modes of passion and ignorance. It is explained in the next shloka as follows.
So, dear devotees, great Vyasadev, who was very kind to ignorant masses, edited the Vedas as they might be assimilated by a less intelligent class of people. When I was, as I told you, I only studied in my own village, 5th standard. I remember every day in the evening, my grandfather and his chacha, that means his father's brother. They are the oldest people in our family. They will come and sit in our drawing room. And then they will tell me to read. Sometime Lakshmi Purana, sometime Vishnu Purana. There are many Puranas over there. I remember we had a Pothi, it's a huge one, and this has come from many pidi, many generations. And that was no more studied, they are being worshipped, Arati. Okay, but the Puranas were full of stories. And these old people, they like to hear because you have nothing to do. You must do something, you hear. That is why in Vedic time, we never encouraged whether Bollywood, Hollywood, or whatever the modern things that has entered into our houses in the form of TV, polluting everyone. Because if they would not have been there, people will study. Because in every culture, whether it is Telugu, Odia, Hindi, all our literatures have been translated. I don't know about Hindi. Hindi में है सब ये पुराना सब हैं क्योंकि गीता प्रेस की हमारा नहीं पोएम फॉर्म में वो तो ट्रांसलेशन होता है. In Odisha, literally all these Puranas are in Mahabharata. Mahabharata you have Sanskrit, but we have Odia Mahabharata, just translation. Srimad Bhagavatam, we have Odia Bhagavatam. So literally all these things were translated in poetic form, in a regional language. In every culture, there is a beauty. And they were translated long back. In my 5th standard, when I was reading, I didn't feel that this is some other language. This is the same contemporary Odia language. And everybody could follow it. And they hear it. And because they are Puranas, they enjoy the stories. And I grew up with Puranas and Purana stories. One of the very famous in Odisha art, that is Daskatya. And you people don't know, we could sit for hours and hours and hours hearing Daskatya. This Daskatya is that these people, they're so expert, they have memorized the entire. I mean, they will not read and hear, no. They will read it extempore, as a song, different meter. And there are only two persons. One is the real storyteller who has memorized everything and he's singing. And then there is another person who is there for humor. Whether people have become inattentive or not, so he will start a chutkula. Like one Daskatya, I remember very clearly. Aniruddha is being kidnapped from Dwarka by Usa's friend, and how Banasura would find, and then there is fight. And so all those things, I think there is Krishna one side and Shiva other side, and there is a fight, and it's amazing narration. And I remember my father, where he was working, there was a doctor. His name was Dr. Sukhdev Sethi. And Dr. Sukhdev Sethi, because family, in public health center, there is a family planning that was given lot of importance that time, how to control population. And that particular division was promoting our Daskatya, and through Daskatya to promote family planning, right? People were. So he is a very connoisseur of this Daskatya and Pala and so forth, that he would invite them, and particularly these Daskatya fellows are from Ganjam district. They do really fascinating job. It's very unfortunate. We lost all that, and Bollywood completely destroyed all our culture. Very wonderful culture. So these Puranas were assimilated, they were sung, and they were sung in such a way people can follow in a very, very wonderful way. Was that not good? I think that was much better. It was so good that in Odisha we had many villages where people, when they attained the age of 50, they would leave the village. They would leave the village. Okay. And from the village they will go to Jagannath Puri. From Jagannath Puri they will go to Vrindavan, and all by walk. And people knew that they will die on the road or in the holy dham. They will never come back. So it is very painful to realize that we are living in a society that is absolutely cultureless. So, should we stop now? we can take some question, right? We can take some question. जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव भगवान की, शिला गिरिराज कृष्ण की, श्री राधा रमन जी की. Chiranjit Roy, you can write down. The first Veda is Rig Veda. Paila is the professor, the disciple, professor disciple of Vyasadev. The second is Samveda. Jaimini was the professor disciple of professor professor disciple of Vyasadev. And then Yajurveda, that is Vaisampayana Rishi, and Vaisampayana Rishi, he is the professor disciple of Vyasadev in charge of Yajurveda. And then Angira is the professor in charge of the Veda called Atharva, fourth Veda. And you must know that there is a fifth Veda, that is all 18 Puranas. Of course, and these 18 Puranas and Mahabharata, the professor in charge was Romaharshana Sutta. So 5 Vedas, 5 professors, professor disciples of Vyasadev, and then they had many disciples, many grand disciples. You say, Gal, are the disciples of Vyasadev who taught various Vedas devotees of Lord Krishna like Vyasadev? If so, how exactly were they preaching these Vedas, especially after the formation of Srimad Bhagavatam? No, they were not devotees of Krishna. And that is why he was chastised by Naraji that why did you compile this? And because many Brahmanas, many professors, grand professors, there's a grand disciple professors, grand disciple professors, they were misguided. They were misguided actually. They were misguided. Is it so that 4 Vedas and Srimad Bhagavatam work in tandem in life of general population at the time Vyasadeva, or it will be that intelligent people would shift to Bhagavad or not? Arey Baba, ye to pura, you should know this. This is what is this chapter is. Vyasadeva would compile and then he will feel despondent. Yeah, and then Naraji would come and would chastise him severely and heavily, and then he would instruct him that compile the literature that directly glorifies Krishna. We should be interested in a literature that can create revolution in the impious hearts of the people. So that is what it is. And so Bhagavatam would come the last, after Brahma Sutra would come Bhagavatam. So yes, it is not that Vyasadeva wanted them. No, he did it. He trained all of them. A lot of work has been done. A lot of energy has been wasted, and then he felt despondent. Our intellectual, mental, secular mode of goodness? Not always. You see that our IIT professors, majority of them are smoking and drinking alcohol and so forth. If you forget about IIT, if you go to any Western society, many of them, they drink at least, eat meat. Jitendra Soni, Krishna's name is never conditioned by the laws of material nature because his name and Krishna are identical. How are ordinary name in this world conditioned by laws of material nature? What does it mean? Why people are doing this? Just keep this question at one place. ordinary name are born out of material nature. I don't know what question you are asking, Jitendra. Krishna's name is not born out of nature. Krishna's name is eternal. Krishna is eternal and hence his names are eternal. Material world is temporary. Every object in the material world will have a temporary name. So I don't know why you are asking this question. It is a very simple question. Next.
Hare Krishna, sir. Dandavat Pranam.
Who is speaking? Abhay?
Akshay. Yes, sir. Sir, one of my students asked me in one of the Bhagavatam class, that was Romaharshan Muni. He was the in charge of all the Puranas, and Srimad Bhagavatam is also one of the Puranas. Was he there when Sukadeva Goswami recited Srimad Bhagavatam?
Who?
And if Romaharshan Muni.
That is what Romaharsana Sutta has had Bhagavatam, right? Correct.
Yes, sir. And in one of the Bhagavatam verse, it is said that Nasta Prayaso Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya. So then, how did Romaharsana disrespect Balram when the whole Bhagavatam is talking about Krishna, Balram, and Supreme Personality of Godhead? So.
If Brahmaji can make a mistake, not recognizing Krishna, although he was instrumental, bringing Krishna into this material world, he ordered the demigods to take birth in Yadu dynasty. Anything can be possible. Every day we are hearing Bhagavatam, Krishna. How much we remember Krishna? We are overwhelmed by our bodily needs, mental needs, and so forth. So, yes, in that assembly, Sutta Goswami personally was there. So his father must be there. Okay. And Sukadeva Goswami reciting, Sutta Goswami personally, he's saying that I was there. I directly heard Sukadeva Goswami. So he and his father had the same teacher, spiritual teacher, Sukadeva Goswami. But it looks like because he was Romaharsana Sutta, Romaharsana was a professor of Puranas. It is possible that, this is my speculation. This is not, I'm speaking from authoritative sources. It's well possible that because as a professor, he might not have given as much importance to Sukadeva Goswami's recitation as Sutta Goswami has given. It is possible. But he made a mistake and he paid a heavy price. Riddhi Murari, how do we purify our mind since we are still conditioned? This question, this answer we read actually in chapter 3, I think last verse or so, where Prabhupada is saying mind can be purified by purified actions. Actions are purified then when our eating, mating, sleeping and defending are purified. So this is a very simple answer from Prabhupada purport, and that's a very, I don't find any better answer to this. So, what is that called? Eating, you purify eating by Krishna Prasadam, you purify sleeping by early to bed, early to rise, and engaging in Krishna's service. You purify your depending by depending on Krishna, and you purify. You purify mating by Krishna conscious marriage and so forth. Meghna Sharma, sir, how can we inculcate good culture by ourselves and new generation? Please hear Bhagavatam. Please hear Bhagavad Gita. Please study Bhagavatam. Please study Bhagavad Gita. Chant Hare Krishna. That's all we have to do. We don't have to do anything. Radhakandas, we see even personalities like Vyasadev commit mistakes, later repent for their mistakes. He started to compile Vedas with good intention to benefit people in general, but it did not succeed. He was so despondent. Did Vyasadev enact this pastime just to glorify the importance of Bhagavatam? What should general devotees think when their plans meant to help in preaching are unsuccessful? In case of, we cannot compare Vyasadev to our things. Recently, I'm suffering for last 3-4 days, no sleep, nothing, just because I wanted to start a company where devotees can be employed. Because I found that many from IIT Kanpur we preach and they go and join different companies and different places. And in the process, I'm suffering so much. I have burnt my finger so much that I can't even sleep. And so should I compare this to Vyasadev's mistakes, stupidity? Vyasadev is a Trikalagi. I had no idea that this is going to happen to me. If I would have known, I would have never Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Just like, any moment later somebody says, start something like that, I will say, please go ahead. Thank you very much. So our failure, our things should not be compared with Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is an empowered incarnation. Is a very empowered incarnation. And so obviously whatever he is doing based on the inspiration he is receiving from the Super Soul. And it's not the Vedas are bad, absolutely. Vedas are not bad. Imagine, suppose we had only Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. I don't think that importance would be so much. Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita has importance because there are so many other literature. So this pastime is simply saying that Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of all Vedic literature. That way only we can understand it. We should not understand it. Vyasadeva made a mistake. There are variegated people. You see that the majority of the intellectuals were spoiled by Vedas, one way to say. The other way is that these Vedas didn't work actually. When Suta Goswami started speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, then all the professors of Vedas were there performing the Agnihotra sacrifice for 1,000 years. It is a fact that this happened actually. For 1,000 years, all these professors, they may be disciples or grand disciples or great grand disciples of Paila, Bashayanpayana, Jaimini, Angira and Romaharshana Sutta. But all sages there, they realize, Baba, ये काम नहीं कर रहा है, कलयुग में ये सब नहीं है. चलो, Suta Goswami को पकड़ो. So in essence, See, this is all. If you say there is only one literature, there's only one literature. There are so many literatures, and then you say so many literatures. And the way it has happened, that is, has happened by Krishna's arrangement. That's all we can say. Even 400, 500 years ago, I think, when Akbar was there. In Akbar's time, people could sing Megamallara. I know, I read a book, Nandi Ghosa. I read a book, Nandi Ghosa, when I was in 8th standard or 9th standard. And there was a very vivid description of Megamallara, how it created a cloud in some historical fact in Odisha. Okay, so it was, Vedas were so powerful that it kept, even Britishers could not destroy our culture. We destroyed our culture. When we attained Azadi, we destroyed our culture. Not Britishers could not, Muslims could not destroy our culture. Our culture was destroyed by ourselves when we attained so-called freedom. So freedom to be destroyed. Okay, thank you very much. श्रीमद् भागवतम की श्री श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंह देव भगवान की शिला गिरिराज कृष्ण की श्री श्री राधा रमन जी की शिला प्रभुपाद की गौर प्रमानंदे हरि हरि।